Hi, everybody. Welcome this week to this week's live. Hi, I'm Athena Ali, the Get Noticed coach. Now, I'm just going to have a quick check that everything is working okay and we're on live everywhere we need to be. So far, it looks like it's working. So, to those who have not seen one of these lives before, this is a weekly thing now. I've been doing these on a Thursday at 12 noon for about 5 to 15 minutes, just on a particular topic of the week. You can come along and ask questions if you like. I usually set a topic, and this week, if you want to ask any questions during the live, please feel free to do so at any time. I'm just going to check that we are on. Please ask at any time, and I'll, if it's on topic, I'll respond as I'm speaking. If it's about a different topic, I will respond to your question at the end. Just note that on Facebook, there is a delay between the time you send your question by the time I see it, so please be patient. And if for some reason I don't get to your question, I will respond to it in the comments below after the live is finished. And I can see, yep, I'm definitely on, which is good. Okay, now, this week's topic was meant to be on career planning doesn't have to be boring, but given that we're many of us in lockdown around Australia, particularly Melbourne and Sydney, and the stresses around the pandemic, I thought it was a good time because I've had a lot of people who want to enter the public service sector, and a lot of people struggling with trying to get in. It seems to be quite competitive at the moment because it is a more secure, stable sector, and it is a sector where there are plenty of jobs going at the moment. So what I thought I'd talk about today around that is the 3 biggest things that made a difference to my clients' efforts to land a role during these times, because a lot of people are thinking, it's a pandemic, how am I going to get a role? You're probably working somewhere, you're afraid that, you're going to be made redundant or that you're going to be stood down and you're not going to be able to work. So security of your income is really important. Excuse me. Now, these sessions only run for about 5 or 15 minutes. They're only short, and this is a really huge topic, and it can go in many different directions. But I did want to highlight just the 3 things the biggest things that I saw that made a difference to my clients, and the reason why they were successful in landing the roles that they did. And we're talking people who have landed director positions. We're talking about people that have landed CEO positions. We're talking about people who have landed management positions or senior project officer type roles. So that step just before management or team leadership. So they're sort of the span of roles that I work with. And they're the people who have managed to get, promotions into, local government, next door to home in senior roles, or landed their next director or manager role, even in a pandemic. Because at the moment, the public service is going through transformation, and they're really looking for people that can move them forward in these times. In the past, the public service has been slow to take up technology and change. But with the pandemic, things have had to move online really quickly. And if you're a change maker and someone that wants to make an impact in the community and want to lead change and transformation that's happening right now in the public service, and you've got the skills to do this and bring them forward into the 2021s and 2025s, going forward, you're probably who they're looking for. They're really looking for talented, skilled, innovative change makers. So if you're one of these people, you're going to have a better chance of landing a role. Okay, but the three main things that I worked on with my clients were these things. Okay, the first thing is clarity. Now, it seems like a really wishy-washy, vague thing to say or to talk about, but in all reality, clarity, knowing what you want and knowing why you want it is really crucial to landing the role, because that information should be consistent throughout your application. Knowing what you want, what job do you want? Why do you want it? Why is it important to you? And being really specific about what you want. Applying for any and every role to try and get something isn't a really good strategy. Having a really clear strategy and clear focus on what you're really wanting and what you're seeking is going to be really crucial to landing the job, because it's going to show. Okay, you need to know, you need to be really clear about what your experience, your skills are. What are your transferable skills? You might not go for the exact same role you're in right now, but what are those skills that you can transfer into a role that you really do want? Because the more you want a role, the more effort you're going to make. And the more effort you make, the more likely you're going to get in. And then once you're in, you're going to make an effort. You're going to want to be there, and you're going to do your best for that customer. And at the end of the day, this is why it's so important to get the right people for the role. So if you're not clear about what you want and why you want it, you're not going to get in. It's going to be really hard for you to demonstrate clearly why you're the best fit for the role. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is around your job application documents. So looking at your resume, your key selection criteria, and your cover letter, which are generally the ways you apply, they need to be consistent. Those documents need to be consistent in the message that they are giving to the employer or hiring manager, okay? The messaging also needs to be persuasive. So listing your job duties doesn't persuade me to hire you. What will persuade me is things like your clarity, is things like, you know, what your purpose is, why you want this role, being clear on your skills and your knowledge and how that's going to solve their problem and what they're looking for to take their organisation forward. Okay, that messaging needs to be the same throughout all your documents, your communications, everything with them needs to be clear, consistent and concise. And it all needs to tie nicely together, because you want them to trust you. They can't trust you if some of your documents say one thing, your other documents say something else, and then when you get to interview, you don't present in the same manner either. So consistency gives certainty, okay? Now, what I also sometimes see in terms of the consistency is there, if I've received job applications, I often see, you know, people who have only had somebody perhaps help them with one or two key selection criteria and not all of the key selection criteria, or they've had someone do their resume but not their cover letter. Now that shows, and this is part of consistency. Sometimes it's best to have all your documents written for you if you're going to go down that path, or learn how to write them yourself. Because the problem is that if you only get someone to help you with what you perceive to be the more difficult criteria in the job application and you write the rest, there can sometimes be a disconnect, or it's obvious that somebody else has written it for you. So you need somebody who can either really clearly write in a way that you would not ordinarily write, or you need all your documents created by the same person, whether that's you or somebody else, because it really does show if they're not consistent, okay? What we're trying to do is create clear messaging and branding that will appeal to them, that they can trust when they hire you. If they don't trust you, they won't hire you. If they have questions about you or anything you've written, they're not going to hire you. Okay, so it's really, really important that you create consistent messaging, branding, and language throughout that job application process, whether you do that yourself or get someone like myself to do that for you. The third thing that people nailed and ended up, you know, in terms of my clients landing their roles were their interviews. Okay, so interview coaching. So by the time you get to the interview, you want the hiring manager to already have a great impression of you. Okay, so that you or them don't have to work nearly as hard in that interview to convince them that you're the right person for the role, which is why consistency in your documents and online profiles is really, really important, because you want them to choose you, and all you want them to be doing is confirming that what you've said in those documents is an accurate reflection of you. Now, if you can't do that in an interview, then guess what? They can't trust you. They're not certain you can do the role. Again, consistency has failed. So what you want to do is create an impression in the first instance where you are the favorite before you go in. Okay, so you do that with your documents, but then when you go in, you need to confirm that what they already know about you is true. Okay, so your messaging and your communication, again, in your interview must be consistent with your job application documents and the clarity that you went into the job search process with. Okay, so everything you've spoken about up until then needs to be a confirmation of that, and it needs to be portrayed really strongly and confidently. Okay, so the three things I'll recap again that helped my clients was the clarity of purpose, clarity of what you want and why. The second thing was having consistent job application documents, whether they were written wholly by you or by somebody else, making sure that that messaging is so clear that they want to bring you in for an interview, that they've got this great first impression of you. And the third thing was being able to convert all of that into interviewing with confidence, okay, and making sure that whatever you've portrayed in your job application documents is the same when you walk in that room. Now, I'll just check if there's any questions in here. I don't see any as yet. Let me just check in here, because I've got a couple of these. I'll just check and I will. It really should come up on my screen. I don't know why it doesn't, but they're my technical difficulties, not yours. I'll just check if there's anybody else in here doing any comments. No, not that I can see. So what we are going to do is I will, if there aren't any questions, please pop them down below. You're most welcome to ask questions, even if you've watched this later. If you've watched this later, if you can type in #replay down the bottom, that way it'll come up in my notifications so I can respond to your questions. But it's time for me to go now, seeing as I can't see any questions at the moment. But next week I am going to present the topic I was going to present this week, which was career planning doesn't have to be boring. And so in the meantime, keep well, reach out if you need a professional to write your documents or coach you into your next public service role. A lot of people come to me because I have served in the public service for over 13 years. I landed all my government roles, and most of my clients also do. So that's why people come to me. So hopefully this has been helpful to you today. If you need to contact me, you can do so down below by asking a question or sending a message on my page. or DMing me wherever you're watching this from. My website is www.thegetnoticecoach.com. We can also arrange a chat as well. If you drop me a line, we can certainly do that. If you're ready to land a secure public service role that you love, where you can make a difference and increase your income too. Okay. Now, I'll see you next week. And yeah, keep well and go for walks, do all those wonderful things, enjoy your time at home. If you've got kids, I know I've got mine inside who've been behaving really, really well today. But yeah, do reach out if you need some help or you or are struggling through lockdown. Please don't feel like you have to do this on your own. But in the meantime, I'll see you next week for next week's live. Bye.